Gentleman yields back his time. Chair, now recognize gentleman from Texas, Mr. Flores, for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I thank the panel for joining us today. Mr. Rauer, the draft legislation treats legacy sites in the same way that the EPA did under the final rule, and that is that inactive impoundments must either close within 3 years or become subject to all of the requirements to an active disposal unit. In your opinion, is 3 years already enough time to close a surfaced impoundment?
Not in all cases. It's a rather complicated process of dewatering the facility to ensure the structural integrity of the unit, to minimize impacts of contaminants to groundwater, to ensure that you can place a cap on top of that unit. There may be climate and permitting complications that would cause that period to be longer. EPA recognized this in their rule when they established a 5-year time frame for closure of impoundments with the possibility of extending that.
Mm-hmm. And that, building on that, then, the legislation that Mr. McKinley drafted gives the implementing agency the authority to grant a 2-year extension. Why is that extension necessary? I think you already answered that, so sometimes you can't.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And again, I'll point to the fact that the agency for active impoundments provided for a 5-year time frame with the ability to extend that closure time period by up to 10 additional years. The closure process for inactive units and active units can be quite similar, so we do need additional time.
Well, let's go ahead and drill into that. I think you said something to the extent that that you'd have to demonstrate, your agency would have to demonstrate why that was needed. Give me an example of the demonstration.
Again, it's not a guarantee that we get that extension. It's something that the owner and operator would have to petition the implementing agency to get. You'd have to demonstrate that the factors are beyond control. The extension would be the same factors in EPA's rule to extend the time period. Climate, weather, permitting conditions, permitting situations require additional time.
Okay.
And you also have to demonstrate that the facility you're closing isn't a threat for release or spill from it.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I mean, in some cases, going to an inactive facility and starting the process to seal it could be more disruptive to the environment than to take your time and do it the right way.
We certainly need to make sure that all facilities, whether they're inactive facilities we're capping or active facilities, are closed in a safe and environmentally sound manner.
Okay. And Mr. Forbeck, to follow up on that, in your opinion, does the draft legislation deal with inactive impoundments in the same manner as the final rule?
It does deal with it very similar, but it does allow some extensions based on the conditions that Mr. Rao expressed.
And those are important conditions.
Yes,
again,
they are.
Disrupting an inactive facility prematurely without adequate planning could be more harmful for the environment. Mr. Forbeck, did the final rule require regulated entities to provide financial assurance for corrective action, closure, and post-closure of coal ash disposal units?
The EPA rule did not.
Okay. And so doesn't this legislation actually go further than the final rule by requiring financial assurance not just for active disposal units but also for inactive surface impoundments?
Yes, it does, and we feel that's a very important component of this legislation.
So thank you for joining us today. I yield to any other Republican members the balance of my time, or I'll yield back. Okay, I yield back.